to another Fullfunnel Live. And today we are going to be talking about Allbound marketing. And what is Allbound marketing for anybody who may not know? Well, basically, I have this chance of talking to probably 2 or 3 B2B companies each week, as they request working with us, or even much more if we meet them during an event. And we keep hearing that the outbound pipeline is in decline, that it's really hard to get to the decision makers, and especially nowadays get them to respond. And then we also hear that on the other hand, with inbound, it's unpredictable. There is sometimes a few more leads, there is sometimes fewer leads, but basically you can't really count on it predictably. And it's also a mixed bag. So sometimes the leads are good and they usually have a good win rate, but they are not always the best fit leads that we know are going to generate us more revenue. So they're not the highest revenue potential. So this is actually the topic of today. How can you combine the outbound and how can you combine the inbound and the inbound and the outbound motion into an all-bound motion? Sorry about that. A lot of bounds here. So, and basically it's about creating joint sales and marketing playbooks where these teams work together from awareness all the way into pipeline and won deals. So this is what we want to cover. And just want to welcome everybody. Let us know where you're calling in from. We are starting a little bit later today because we had to shift the time, and Andre is joining, but he's running late. So let us know where you're calling in from today. As always, from Valencia, Spain. This time not from our office. I'm calling in from my home office. So, wow, even Thailand. So we always have a very international audience from both sides of the oceans, and this time also in Asia. Boston. Hello, welcome everybody. UK. Hey, Debbie. Fantastic. Cleveland, Ohio. All right. So let's jump into this. And first, I just wanted to give you an overview of how we look at outbound marketing, what it is all about, and then dive into details and share a lot of examples, as always, with you, concrete examples that we see work these days in the industry. So let me just do a quick share here, and I want to share hopefully the right one. Yes, this one, just a diagram. And if you have seen this post from Andre earlier this week, when he was promoting the podcast, he shared this on his LinkedIn feed. But basically what we see here is a kind of a funnel. I don't think there are a lot of surprises here in terms of awareness, then some sort of a middle of the funnel when you're driving discovery and qualification. And then we have, let's say, more bottom of the funnel leading into the pipeline and sales qualified opportunities. So I don't think there is anything new. Now, how does this relate to all-bound marketing? Well, first of all, what we know, if you look at purely outbound motions, I've spoken to a sales director recently, and he told me that outbound is in decline, and he explained why, because he said it's not anymore even enough to personalize your messages, because our buyers, our customers, he said, I've spoken to our customers and they receive so much email, like more than 50 messages each day, email, and obviously also LinkedIn, etc. They just don't have the time to read any of them. So it's not even a matter of personalization, because it doesn't matter how much you personalize. If they don't know you, is basically what he said is like they will only read messages from people that they know. And let's say people that they know, like, and trust. But basically, if I know you, I'm going to read your message. So that's already where we can start talking about all-bound, right? So we can make sure that we are reaching out to buyers and customers that have been made aware of us, that already start to get to know us. we can be connecting and engaging with them on social, for example, before reaching out, to put it very simply. And then we can also use marketing activities and content and webinars, etc., etc. I'll share a lot of examples of what you can do, what you can use as two teams to create that awareness and start these initial conversations, right? So that is already where, instead of, on the one hand, passively waiting with inbound for the, let's say, all the buyers to go through all the different stages and come out as an opportunity, what you're doing is you are being proactive, but you're not being just reaching out cold to people. You're actually using marketing to warm them up. So now I'm reaching out to you, but also, like, I'm not assuming that you have a need immediately. So just because you maybe have attended our webinar or saw a piece of content, like the piece of content, that you are ready to buy. So another important concept here, other than working together, is match the call to action or match the activity with the level of buying intent. There are some appropriate actions. There are some actions that are not appropriate. Hey, Andrei.
Hi, everybody.
So I don't want to go into a lot of details. Essentially, the two main concepts, like I mentioned, you're working together. You're not passively waiting on inbound. You're being proactive with outbound. You're using marketing to warm them up, so you're not reaching out cold, but you're also not just passively waiting. You're continuing the conversation, and then, very importantly, you're matching the activity with the level of the buying intent. And there's also, as we go deeper there, we are also looking at buying signals, etc. But I don't want to go into too much detail right now, because I prefer to give you very concrete examples. And as you know, we like to keep this practical. Again, this is not we out of scope as well. Is obviously we need to have a good ICP, and this is not a session about creating an ICP, about prioritizing accounts. We did a lot of sessions about creating about prioritizing accounts, about creating cluster-based programs, about zooming into that. So I'm just going to very briefly mention this right now. What we are doing usually within a program, we are focusing on a specific ICP, and we create a program around a specific cluster of accounts, so that we are reaching out one to few. Cluster of accounts means a group of accounts that have they're in a similar buying stage, that have a similar set of challenges. Usually it is around a specific use case or a specific job to be done. I think if you've watched some of our previous episodes, you will see that you have seen this graph where we describe, basically, you have all the ICP fit accounts, then you have your industry, then you may have different verticals, and then you have clusters. Clusters could be like very specific to one vertical or across the different vertical. But like I said, this is not a session about that. It's about, once you have identified those accounts, how are you going to actually use the allbound motion to create sales qualified opportunities. So with that out of the way, just wanted to give word to Andrei. Hi.
Hey, everybody. And yeah, sorry for being late. I always join to kind of start introducing our sponsor instead of diving in the episode. So it's like I'm a pitcher here. But jokes aside, always super grateful to companies that help us to run this podcast. And guys, we've been partnering for a long time with DealFront.
I'm sorry, Andrei. It seems that the volume has dropped. If there is anything you can do about it.
Hear me?
Okay. Kate says it's fine. It's back. Okay.
Okay, good. So we've been partnering with DealFront for a long time, and from our experience, this is one of the best and also cost-effective intent data providers. What we love about DealFront, they have multiple integrations, including HubSpot, Salesforce, and the data quality is pretty good, especially if you are marketing and selling to EMEA markets, right? They also have a database of accounts, so you get everything in one place. And if you don't have if you currently don't have a vendor for intent data, or you are looking for alternatives, I'm dropping a link here so you guys can grab a free account. What we love about DealFront as well is that it's product-led growth company, so you can just install it and evaluate if it's a good fit for you, right? Okay, that being said, let's come back to our main topic, the Allbound marketing. Vlad described the Allbound, let's say, general principles. What we want to do next is to talk about the sales and marketing playbooks, right? That's the essence of the entire approach, right? Marketing and sales start working together on activating right accounts. One of the things, before we'll kind of describe the playbooks here and the planning of these playbooks, one of the things that I would love to highlight, and maybe to address the question that you guys ask, hey, but in that setup, to whom we are going to attribute the revenue and the opportunities, right? And from my humble point of view, create effective GTM teams, they never have these discussions, because this is why it's called Allbound marketing, right? You have joint efforts to generate these opportunities, right? In reality, you have multiple touch points. There would be a lot of marketing touch points, ads, maybe emails, events, whatever, right? I'm generalizing here. And there would be multiple sales touch points, connection requests, engagements, conversations, profiling, etc. All of them are equally important. It's absolutely, it's absolutely wrong mindset if you try to kind of extract some of these touch points and say, hey, that was more important, right? So let's double down on this. That's absolutely wrong mindset. Unfortunately, the reality of B2B marketing is that all of these touch points have equal importance, right, and equal influence on the deals, right, on making accounts, first of all, problem aware, then vendor aware, then start considering your solution, then evaluating and comparing to competitors, and then finally purchasing, right? So that's the first thing. And that being said, let's talk about the first part of the joint playbooks of, let's say, this Allbound marketing playbooks, how to create awareness. Sharing mic with you, Vlad.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's talk about awareness. And the way that I would like to structure this is to talk about all the, let's say, the playbooks or the activities that marketing can do and the activities that sales can do. So that's very important. Now, when we are planning to create awareness, like one of the biggest challenges that we see is that companies will create content and messaging based on false assumptions about the challenges of their target accounts. And the way that we would like to solve this, in addition to obviously running customer research, is analyzing the highest, let's say, largest won deals, lost deals, and fastest won deals, and starting to understand what are the common use cases that you initially start with in, let's say, a specific vertical. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about, let's say we are selling something within the financial service industry, some sort of, let's say, sales enablement tool. And we know that usually we start with the investment banking branch of the business, and we sell to, let's say, the sales director and the CRM manager or the RevOps manager, however they call them. And we know that a frequent use case that we see is that when they have a high turnover of their agents and advisors, that this is where we can offer a competitive advantage, because they have this high need to, let's say, educate their salespeople and, let's say, keep the knowledge from going away as the agents are going away, and then quickly onboard the other ones. So we are going very specifically on that, let's say, use case. But also what you can see here is it's a very nice way for us as well to use this insight to be able to select the accounts, because we can go on LinkedIn Sales Navigator and we can see where they had, for example, turnover, where they had growths and drops in their in their departments. Now, when you are so focused, it's much easier for you to create relevant messages and relevant content. So we start creating content around that. A second point about awareness that I wanted to kind of, not a caveat or like a key point, is that when you're doing all-bound marketing, is what we're talking about today, you don't want to just create content of, let's say, type, I don't know, like blog posts or white papers is what a lot of companies are doing, right? You want to create this content that can be used by sales to start a conversation. And so what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, it's obviously like if you create content for social, it's much easier for you to then, if somebody is engaging with that content, to start a conversation around the topic of the post that you have just shared. And if you're doing, for example, events or webinars, this is another way that really makes it easier for you to engage with the audience. I'll share a couple of more examples. So let me share the concrete examples of the activities that both marketing and sales can do once they understand these challenges very well. Once we have a focus and we understand these challenges, okay, what are those activities that we can do? So let me just do a quick share again and share a few examples here. So the first example that you will see in a moment is a LinkedIn post or social. I mean, in some cases, this might be, I don't know, for example, if you're selling into technical audiences, maybe you should be focusing on communities, specific niche communities, or like Discord or whatever, wherever they're hosted, rather than LinkedIn, as in our example. But for a lot of people, LinkedIn is very relevant. Essentially, what you're doing is you're not doing what a lot of companies are doing on LinkedIn social, is dropping links or teasers. You're actually sharing the best piece of your content, the value of the most valuable piece of the content you're sharing directly in the LinkedIn post. And I'm sure like most of you have seen how we do this, and we do the exact same thing with the clients. And this is the best way, because it allows you, like I said, to start a conversation. I'll show you that in a moment. And of course, what marketing can do as well, as you can see here on the screenshot for people who are watching us live or later on YouTube, you can see that you can obviously like promote this post. You can promote it to your cluster, to the audience that you are after, that you have selected, and basically help guarantee distribution. Even in some communities and forums, such as, for example, Reddit, which is like growing really fast, you can also do promotion there. You do it based on specific subreddits. Another example of a marketing activity that I wanted to share with you is basically surveys or market research. We like to talk about market research. So again, remember, we really understand the challenge of our audience. So in this case, let's say we know that, at this time of the year, at the beginning, well, now it's already almost the second quarter, but basically what we have seen a lot at the beginning of the year, as companies were reviewing their results, a lot of the teams, unfortunately, 2023, they had missed revenue targets. So that was like a big deal. Now, if we know this is a big challenge for a specific cluster of companies that we are after, well, we can maybe run market research like here and interview a lot of the people and create buyer-generated content, quote unquote, around this challenge. And remember what I said. I said, we don't want to just create like a white paper or a piece of content that is going to be somewhere on a website where you have to send the buyers to. We want to create content that will allow already sales to have these interactions with people. So how are sales involved here? Well, they could be doing, for example, buyer interviews as you're creating this piece of content, and obviously collecting information. What can sales do to create awareness? Because awareness should be also created by sales. Sales has the opportunity to go very targeted to the specific buyers in the target accounts. So obviously what we can do is we can build our network, connect to the target buyers. So in example here was we were doing a specific campaign in the Nordics market. One of the steps was there we had an event, so we didn't really have a big network in that region, so we were building this network. So what you see here is an example of how you might start a conversation. And another one is an important one that is, I think a lot of people kind of are sleeping on this opportunity. A lot of salespeople are not leveraging this as much as they could. And this is thoughtful commenting. So what you see here is Frederick belongs to the quote unquote same cluster of target accounts, buyers in target accounts, was asking a question, right? And Andre was basically providing advice in a comment. So Frederick was following Refine Labs, like a lot of our audience does, follow Refine Labs and Chris Walker. And he was asking a question. Now, what Andre did here is not only just engaged with Frederick and increased the chance of being, getting connected with him. But actually, if you think about it from a perspective of personalization, this is like one-on-one personalized content. Like, so this comment is actually a piece of content that we are also creating as a sales, let's say, activity to create awareness in those accounts. So these are the 4 examples that I wanted to share with you, 2 from marketing and 2 from sales. Remember, don't create content based on false assumptions. Make sure that you are working with the subject matter experts, interviewing your customers, and understand the specific challenges that you have within the target account cluster. 2, create content that can be used by sales to start conversations such as social, webinars, market research. And 3, both marketing and sales have a role here in awareness creation. So content distribution, but also engagement on social, such as in these 2 examples. Which brings me to the next topic that we want to cover here is, okay, let's say we have been creating awareness and you might have accounts that are ready to buy, but you will also have accounts that are early in the buying stage. So the next question we wanted to answer here is, okay, how can we nurture those accounts that are maybe not yet ready to buy and accelerate their buyer journey?
And this is really essential, guys, because not all of these accounts are sales ready, right? There is a big false assumption, especially on the sales side, that, okay, we do this engagement and then the next step would be pitching. No way, right? If you have attended one of the episodes that we have, where we have covered We Need Revenue Now, we were talking a lot about active focus list, accounts that are likely to be converted, right? Accounts with the strong product need evidence, right? That's one story. You can work together on opportunity development. The second one is that, okay, these accounts started to reply to you. Maybe they visited your website, right? But this is low engagement. And you honestly, as a team, you have no idea if they have a challenge your product solves, right? That's the reality. That would be this assumption that you can apply to the majority of accounts you are targeting now, right? So for you altogether, what would be essential as in that Allbound playbook? How can we collect product need evidence, right? How can we understand if that account has a challenge our product solves? And how can we nurture that account so they would become interested in our solution? This is what demand generation all about, right? So ultimately, we wanted to generate demand for our product. Now, a few things. And I would share basically the playbooks that we have seen working really, really well for us. Not only for our clients, not only for Fullfunnel, but also whenever we have conversations with our peers, everybody mentioned this. One of the best playbooks is when you create events. Nowadays, we're luckily living in a post-COVID era, so all field events, all offline events are back. And from our experience, just that's not that's not a biased opinion. It's backed by data. Whenever you are able to host a field event, and whenever you are able to print your target accounts, right, to that place, you always see a positive impact on pipeline. And that could be a fantastic next step in your, let's say, account nurturing and account profiling. To share with you a practical example, right? A few weeks ago, we hosted a private invite-only event in Copenhagen, in Denmark. Let me see if you can see my screen, right? So for this specific event, we have partnered with Demandbase and with Stream Data, who are a local vendor and well known in Danish, let's say, SaaS scene. Together, we have defined who would be the ideal customer, right? Let's say in this case, who would be an ideal attendee, right? So altogether, okay, this is a specific ICP. These are the roles that we want to invite, and we want to invite people who are considering to run ABM or are running ABM, and potentially, right, they are not satisfied with the results, so we can share with them a few ways how to improve their ABM playbooks. By the way, I'm curious if anybody here from Denmark who has attended that event, let us know in the chat.
Or Sweden, we had some folks
Sweden,
also coming over from, yeah.
Yeah. Now you're wondering, right? Where's the nurturing part? The nurturing part obviously comes from collecting the insights. Whenever you do, so first of all, sales. That's a fantastic opportunity to add one more non-sales touch, right? Hey, we are kind of hosting this event with this partner, so you can do it on your own. You can do it with thought leaders. So there are multiple ways. You can do it with your clients, right? Who have a quite solid brand, right? Trusted, recognizable brand on that specific location, right? On that specific market. We want to invite you, right? For most people, it could be, and especially if these people that are already aware of your company, that could be a low. I mean, this is not a hard deal, right? So they could accept it. I'm not saying that everybody would be accepting your invites like crazy, right, and coming, but in reality, a lot of people would be willing. Why? Because first of all, they are already aware of you. Second, they love to meet with peers. This is the reality. We're speaking a lot with folks, and there are not many really good events. These events, they should be really well defined. It shouldn't be like, hey, we're going to talk about SaaS marketing or B2B marketing, right? So this is too broad. You need to talk about very specific things, and you need to tell people that this room would be filled with their peers, right? So that would be a networking event as well. So that would be fantastic, right? If as marketing, you're going to create entire collateral to warm up these accounts, right? You can boost that content. You can, through ads, you can run the ads to promote that event to specific list of accounts that you want to attend. At the same time, you partner with sales, right? And sales could reach out to folks and invite them. Here is an example. For example, a message that Vlad sent to a few target accounts, and I did the same. And for us, it was essential, right? So you sent invites, but at the same time, we also ask people, what would you like to learn? Are you currently running account-based marketing or no? Are you satisfied with your results or no? If that would be, let's say, number one thing that you want to take away after this event, what that would be, right? What could we cover on that workshop? So will help you to improve your operations, right? And because people are signing up, for them it's no-brainer to share, right? Because literally you are a provider of information and you collect their feedback, so it becomes super valuable. There is even additional benefit for them to come because they will know that their answers should be covered. And if you are not, I mean, you could be, as marketing and sales, you could be just in charge of running that event, but not you would be presented, right? Maybe some you have subject matter experts in your organizations who would be speakers, right? So for you, it would be another fantastic opportunity to talk to your SME and share with them all the insights that you have collected, saying, hey, you know what, we just spoke to these folks, right? This is what they're all interested about. And at the same time, your SMEs start creating super relevant content. If we'll make a step forward after this event, that could be easily repurposed into multiple thought leadership pieces of content, into really good blog articles that you can use and then later promoting, right? So there are always wins. So these events basically help you to strengthen your relationship with the accounts that became aware of you. And we shared field event. Obviously, you can do virtual events. Well, for example, even like simply like this podcast. Sometimes, guys, that we are running once a quarter, we are running either workshops or webinars where we share step-by-step framework. So last time we did that was about how to develop a full funnel go-to-market strategy, right? 12 steps. So obviously we kind of invest more into promotion. We do the same. We're inviting our target accounts to the specific events. So it's not field or offline event is optional. You can do it virtually, right? Especially if you are selling globally. So just wanted to share with you an idea. But for you, again, the benefits are altogether. You start focusing on how can we accelerate the journey of these accounts. How can we nurture them, right? How can we collect the necessary information and understand where they are in the buying journey? Because next, cross-sharing these insights, you can start targeting them with the content. Maybe you'll define maybe some of these people would share with you the challenges that they are facing, and you might suggest the next solutions, which could be, let's say, a consultation with your SME, maybe a demo of your product, right? If they're, for example, frustrated with their current process, or they're looking to switch from your competitor, they're looking for alternatives, right? There might be multiple solutions. Or maybe you'll see that they're very early in their buying process. So it makes no sense to proactively target them. You might share your newsletter, your blog articles, right? So the journey will just start for them. And that doesn't mean that nothing will happen. We always interview our clients. We know that from the first touch point, when we got acquainted, just to give you an idea, last year, as you know, we are hosting our Full Funnel Summit every year, and the next one would be in a few weeks. So if you didn't sign up, by the way, Vlad, if you can drop a link, if you guys didn't get a ticket to our Full Funnel Summit, Vlad will drop a link so you can sign up. But what I wanted to share, last year, we hosted the summit. We were inviting people. There were people who just, because other speakers were promoting this event, right, they became aware of Full Funnel. And after 9-10 months, they were reaching out to us and mentioning that the first touch point was the Full Funnel Summit, right? So I'm saying that not all of them are sales ready immediately, right? So that's why these playbooks help a lot. And also, the best part here is that you have an opportunity to follow up after the event. Was it helpful? Did we cover all the questions, right? Do you need any help? You can share Content Hub with related materials, right? And basically for the engaged accounts, you'll be able to suggest next activation steps, right? This is how you develop this. And I shared the event playbook, just obviously that's optional, but from our experience, this is one of the best ways to create a really good nurturing event, doing all of these activities. But in the worst case, you'll have a super targeted content and engaged audience that might become your pipeline in the nearest future, right? So let's that being said, let's cover the next part. How can we collect these key insights about accounts? So let's share a few examples.
All right. So one thing that is very important to understand when you're doing Allbound marketing is, like we said, we're trying to move those accounts from maybe not aware through problem aware, through vendor aware, etc. We are trying to move them to the pipeline stage and later on to a one deal. But one thing that is really important there is as well that how can I normally, if I'm doing, for example, outbound outreach, so it's not allbound, but outbound outreach, we know that if there is already that kind of, they know you, so they might actually look at your message, that one thing that is really important is how you actually personalize the message, especially when you're reaching out to accounts that are, enterprise accounts, large accounts. They will have very specific use cases. They will have very specific challenges that they're looking to solve. So the better you have this understanding, the more you will be able to personalize your message. Second, there is also a fact that you just don't know. Like if I if you like share with me like a, let's say B2B tech company that fits our firmographics criteria, I might look at their website, look at their LinkedIn or whatever, and still not really be sure about whether they're actually buying right now, whether they have a need. I might just not know. So understanding if they have a challenge, if they have an active need, right? Maybe they have an ABM vendor and they're super satisfied, or they have just implemented, let's say, an ABM program. They're super satisfied, so not a highest priority for us. So all of these examples that I've given you for personalization, to even know where they are in the buyer journey, to get this insight about those accounts, it's all about collecting these insights, collecting this information. And a question that I really like to ask when I'm talking to salespeople, I like to ask them the following question. If you had to bet your compensation on an account, right? If you had to bet your compensation on an account, what is the information that you would like to have before you make that bet, right? So in other words, what do you want to know in order to be able to evaluate, can I sell to this account, and what is the best way for me to sell into this account? And then the question becomes, so if you kind of agree on the fact that getting that knowledge is important, well, then the question becomes, how do we get that knowledge, which is what the next step is all about that we wanted to share with you here. So let me share three examples actually. And this is also something where both sales and marketing can have and can play a role in, right? So let me just, that's not the right one. I'm sorry, just have too many tabs open. Thank you for waiting. So basically, here you have one example, and I already mentioned market research as a way for marketing to create content that has the interaction built in. So you're basically reaching out to target accounts, to target buyers, and you're running some research and creating content. Now, while you're running the research, you're asking questions. And this is one way to collect the insight. You can ask them questions about their, you know, where they are in their journey. You can ask them about the technology that they're using. You can ask them, for example, we asked in this very specific survey, obviously asked them about their challenge, their top challenge, but we also asked them about how they spend their budget. Do they spend budget on consulting or training companies? And I think some of you might have actually been a part of this and have provided some answers to us, some responses to us. And essentially what we were doing here is we were creating this piece of content that we actually later run a webinar on. We will publish also results from this survey and this research, but also on the back of that, once we had enough information from these interviews, from these surveys, and we could now basically qualify that, yes, this sounds like a good fit. Yes, there is an active need. So this company is already looking to improve or to start, let's say, with an ABM program or to improve their existing program, right? We could then say, you know what, now we can go into the next step. Andre will talk more about activation, so the last step of the Allbound puzzle. But essentially, in this case, we offer them a kind of audit of their process and kind of a small planning, which allowed us, of course, to have that in-depth conversation and get to the proposal stage with them. So this is one example of how you can collect the information. The other one that I wanted to share with you is on the event. So Andre shared with you the example event that we did in Copenhagen, and it was an invite only event. And so we wanted to make sure that we are really only speaking there in front of an ICP audience, in front of an audience that is actually using ABM. So what you can see, first of all, on the copy, you can see this event is intended for B2B marketers already working with or considering putting in place account-based marketing. Then, okay, 100 plus employees, 5,000 plus. Okay, that was a bit of a compromise for us. It's a little bit higher, but for some of our partners, this was a good number. And then what, I didn't have the screenshot here, but basically what happened as well is, as they were submitting, as they were applying to be registered for this event, there were also a couple of questions in the intake form. So the way that you could think about it is, remember how I started this section. I said, ask your sales people, if you had to bet your compensation on an account, what would you like to know, right? And what is the information that you would need to know to evaluate whether it's worth the bet, and also the information that you would want to have to make a perfect sales pitch. Okay, so now we map out the information that we want to know, and then think about it as, okay, let's say you have 4 different questions that you want to have answered, or 5. And then you have different touch points. You have this intake form before the event. Then we had maybe that survey. So think about, okay, I could potentially, I don't have to ask them all of the questions, right? So if it's like a form to register for an event with 5 different questions, some of those questions, like, that they wouldn't want to answer yet before they get to know you, it wouldn't make sense. But maybe there is like one question that I could ask in my intake form. Maybe if we want to know about their challenge, or maybe the stage, maybe we could have had a drop down saying, okay, select like what applies to you in terms of your ABM. Okay, considering to implemented, looking to improve, things like that. Okay, so we sometimes speak about progressive profiling. What we want to say by this is, think about all the different touch points that you can have with your buyers, and then think about, in the different touch points, what are the different questions? How can I map those questions to the different touch points? And speaking about the touch points, we showed you 2 marketing examples, and I wanted to show you here a sales example. I think Andre already mentioned this, but I think it's worth quickly repeating it. So as people were registering for the event, Andre was also reaching out to them and basically getting feedback on the event session and diving deeper into the reasons. Okay, why are, like, basically you register for this event, so what is the challenge that you're looking to solve? What is, like Andre asked here, what is the one thing you would like to learn from that session? And then also getting feedback on the specifics of the session. So that's another point where you can get more information. By the way, during the event, you can make it interactive. If it's like a webinar, you can do a poll. If it's like a live event, you can do kind of an interactive workshop where you can collect information. You can do it after the event as well, as you're following up, etc., etc. The idea is map the different questions that you want to have answered to the different touch points. And then now we have so far covered how to create awareness. We have covered what to do with the accounts that are, let's say, in the early stages of the buying journey. How can we nurture them? How can we get the information to know whether they are actually qualified, if there is an actual potential sales opportunity there, yes or no? And the last question that this leads us to is, okay, if we think there is a potential opportunity, we have enough information, how can they're engaged, there is awareness there, how can we then activate them and create a potentially create a sales qualified opportunity?
And this is, again, that should be joint decision. You cross-share information, and you say, you can involve your SME sometimes. That's especially important if you're guys selling to technical audience, right? So you need to get an expert opinion of a person who was wearing shoes of your buyers, right? That's essential. So with all of these insights, what would be the next right step? Okay, for example, we know that this company is frustrated with their current solution. Let's personalize why they should have a demo with us, but not just sending, like, let's say, a templated message. Hey, we help put your target buyer role with this and that. right? Now you say, hey guys, we were chatting with you and we saw that you are currently frustrated with this and that. We were thinking about a few clients who are dealing with the same issue, right? And this is how they were able to solve it. If you want, I can show you how to do it, or I can connect you to these buyers so you can talk to them and they would provide feedback. That's another fantastic idea. Why? Because people trust their peers. You all know this, right? Probably if, for example, if you were looking for intent data solution and I recommended DealFront, you'll be more likely to try it than just, see multiple ads from DealFront, right? Let me know if that's true. Maybe I'm biased. That I don't know what I'm talking about. So another idea is, okay, let's say these accounts, they might have a need, right? But there is no clear understanding that this is kind of a bleeding neck, right? They don't prioritize this challenge. What would be the right thing? Or maybe they are not aware that they have a problem with their processes. Just because these are the standards in this organization, this is how they were doing the things for years, right? So in that case, it made sense before pitching anything. Maybe it makes sense to connect them with your SME, right? And suggest, hey, you know what? We are running the strategy sessions, inspirational sessions, as one of our clients called this, right? Whatever would be the name. But we can talk about your challenges and help you for free. And normally people would be interested then, right? If you are talking about the processes, usually if you are in a product-based business, right? If you have a product, your product would be a central part of that process, right? So normally you don't even need to pitch it. You can show how these different challenges could be solved in that specific product, right? So this is how you define it together. Maybe for some of these clients, it makes sense to prepare some specific vertical use cases or a reference deck. Or maybe they require, they want to show to their IT team, security protocol or migration steps, and you don't have these documents. So altogether you say, okay, let's prepare this, or they need to present it to their boss, right? Or maybe they need to initiate change management. So altogether you start working on a strong business case, right? Basically, which means you prepare enough arguments for your champions, for your engaged buyers to sell your product in-house. And this is a joint work. This is what marketing and sales should do all together, right? Or maybe that could be another idea. You have a very engaged contact, right? But they might say, okay, my boss might be suspicious. So you'd say, why not, for example, I don't know if you are doing this, for example, if you are running podcasts like this, right? Vlad shared example about Fred. You might say, why not inviting this boss, so we can do an interview with them. Or maybe if this company is not far from you, maybe you can invite them for the business breakfast, right? Again, just having some sort of connection. So there could be multiple ideas and you plan them together. And I would love to wrap up this session with a few questions that you guys asked. I think that they are really interesting and really essential. One of the questions came from Anne. She asked, what dashboards do you use to measure Allbound effectively, and what indicators? So I believe a lot of you have this question, so let me show you a few examples so you can see it. It looks like, let me share my screen. So this is the first one, right? We'll have to create, this is the spreadsheet, but you can create this in your CRM. You can set up workflows in HubSpot, for example. The key point is whenever you define a specific playbook, right, you need to ensure that both marketing and sales would take all the necessary steps, right, to make sure that the target buyers would move to the next step. Either it would be a field event, webinar, I don't know, sessions with your target accounts, etc., right? Something that would move them further in their buying process. And then you define what are the critical steps. Next, you have these highly engaged accounts, right? With them, you need to engage consistently. The biggest mistake we are seeing is that a lot of reps, what they do, they come, leave a comment in ideal world. In most cases, they don't do this, right? Then they send a personalized connection request, which is, I'm growing my network or whatever, right? And then, hey, we are selling to people like you, would you like to have a demo call? And if they receive no, or if buyers ignore them, they just simply forget and move forward. That's absolutely wrong approach. If you know that, like what Vlad said, if you have defined accounts that are likely to become sales opportunities, you need to proactively engage with these people. You need to consistently do this, right? And for this specific reason, you define the steps and you track the last engagement. Next one is what we mentioned in the beginning. It's the revenue report. Really, if in organizations where you need to prove marketing sourced revenue, right? You can call it like marketing sourced SQLs or marketing sourced pipeline, but you can call it also Allbound pipeline if you want, right? So it's just if you need to justify it. But I'm at the same time with Vlad, we are business owners, right? Even if our company is small, for us, it really doesn't matter. Is it a marketing or sales generated opportunity? It's money, it's revenue. So from the business perspective, and we know that, like I said, all of these activities in the playbook, they all influence the buying journey, right? So it doesn't really matter that like this specific podcast episode didn't bring sales opportunities for us, right? That's the key. So effective GTM teams, they don't debate about this. But what ultimately matters is the revenue metrics, right? And this is the number of sales qualified opportunities, your win rate, then your average contract value, and total sales cycle length, because this way you can calculate sales pipeline velocity, which gives you a trajectory of your revenue this year, right? And another question was from Kate. Okay, but like whenever I try to get buy-in from sales, they are going crickets, right? Which is true, but this is the only way. If you can populate these numbers, a lot of companies never do this report and they never track the sales pipeline velocity. Just get these numbers and see where you're heading with the current trajectory, right? Numbers don't lie. You don't need to make, the worst thing is making false forecasts, right? Hey, if we'll invest more in ads, we might get some revenue. No way. You look at the current data, and the current data tells you where you are headed with your revenue. And then the next point, you can have a friendly discussion. Look, guys, we are kind of going to miss our revenue targets by 20%. Are we good with this? Do you know what to do? No? Okay, I have few ideas. Let's try. We are not going to run a revolution in our organization, right? But I have a few ideas. Let's try to do these playbooks on a small scope basis. This is basically the concept of pilot programs that we have described multiple times. And also, if you are wondering, all this Allbound program is covered in our new Fullfunnel ABM course. So for some of you who are interested to kind of get the complete picture, you can check this one. Next point, how kind of to justify that you want to have these cluster programs. I think what makes perfect sense is to kind of develop this comparison report. This is really essential to show. Because what companies do and how they justify the sales-led motion. They say, okay, we were like, because of our outbound activities, we were able to generate, let's say, 14 sales opportunities, right? And with your Allbound motion or ABM or demand gen, doesn't really matter, you guys were able to generate only 9. So if you look only on these metrics, obviously you'll tell that outbound works better, performs better. But you need to look at other things, right? Okay, in our Allbound program, we only had 40 accounts, right? And our account to pipeline ratio is 22 and 50%, right? 22 and a half. So like we were able to convert on almost 25% of our target accounts into sales opportunities, while for outbound cadence, we were able to convert only 3.5%. Now, from this 9, we were able to close 5 with average contract value of 125K, right? While from outbound, we were able to close only 3 with ACV of 75K. And when you'll be able to present these numbers, that would be completely different picture, right? Because the biggest problem we are seeing, a lot of companies, they just look at sales or even worse, at meetings booked, right? And nobody talks about ghosting prospects, about no show ups, right? That's another story. Everybody would ignore this. But this is actually the story that lead generation agencies promote. Hey, get your calendar full of meetings booked, right? That's not a big deal to go to Upwork and ask a bunch of people to book meetings with you, right? So if you want to if you want to go to make everybody go in nuts in the organization, I'm kidding, of course, but you got the idea, right? Meetings booked is the worst metric that you can track. Track real sales opportunities, your win rates, and your ACV and sales cycle lengths, right? This is what gives you a reality. The problem is that a lot of companies deliberately have inaccurate data because nobody wants to take a sober look at their outbound performance, at their lead generation performance, at their demand capturing. So just dare to do it, and you'll see it would be an eye-opener for everybody in the organization. So that being said, these were the kind of critical things that we highly recommend you to measure. Lastly, for every playbook that you guys are going to run, you need to create individual reports. So what we love to do, this is a typical report that we create, but for the virtual events, if we kind of target a global audience, right? What we'll have to do is to track what is the sign-up rate and attendance rate of our target accounts, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, right? You can see accounts that registered for the webinar, accounts that attended the webinar. Next, from how many of these accounts we were able to book these one-on-ones. And I'm not saying only the demo calls, right? But maybe one-on-ones with your SMEs, connecting them with your customers, because this is also a bridge between marketing, or let's say between Allbound and sales opportunity. Next, you can track it, right? And it's really easy to track this. Whenever you have these events, right, you have a list of signups, you can always upload this list to your CRM with a tag that contains the name of that specific event, right? So that would be always kind of an attribution if you want. And then you can see, right, what is how that specific event influenced your pipeline, right? How many sales opportunities we were able to have. And then you can do a breakdown by regions and tiers, or let's say by regions and client status, net new, renewals, expansion, named accounts that are already in your pipeline, and you track the positive signals, right? So for example, we were able to talk to, I don't know, let's say CTO of specific company, and he brought 3 product engineers with him, right? He immediately registered 3 more people with him, whatever, right? Or for example, we are going to host an ABM workshop in Antwerp, and we were reaching out to a few fellow VPs of marketing, and they immediately said, hey, I would love to print my demand gen manager and my content marketer to that specific event, right? That's another positive signal. So these are the ideas that you need to track, right? It's not sales opportunity, but it's a huge positive signal that your event resonated, right? And for you, it's a traction signal that it means that it works, right? So you can always prove it and then justify. That being said, I think we have 2 minutes left. Let us know if that was helpful, valuable, interesting. Type something in the chat. Question from Melanie: do you track these numbers per account or per contact? Per account. And feel free to ask any other questions. We have a few minutes left, so we can cover them. And yeah.
Yeah, I had a quick question, got it as a message actually, not as a chat, from Robert. Quick question: how to do long-term nurturing? The way that, just very briefly, 2 remarks about long-term nurturing. The first one is that the way that we look at our demand generation programs is we create what we call a demand generation calendar. What do we mean by that? We, as you know, Andre and myself, we post daily on LinkedIn. Then we have our company page also posting daily on LinkedIn. Then we have a weekly newsletter for Fullfunnel Insiders newsletter, and we have another newsletter for our community. We have also daily engagement on the community on LinkedIn. We have these weekly live podcast episodes. We run several webinars where we dive deeper, kind of workshops. We run live events, etc. So this is what I mean by the calendar. And so with this, you have kind of already an always on multi-channel nurturing. What we hear from a lot of our prospects and customers is that, oh, I've attended this webinar and I was following you on LinkedIn, etc., etc. So you see that effect. And then next to that, very specifically then, if you're talking about marketing automation and email nurturing, we have several nurture sequences that are set up around specific topics that are quite long sequences around the topic, where we usually repurpose our best content from LinkedIn and try to have as long a sequence as the sales cycle normally is long, because otherwise, just like that's what I guess you mean with the long term nurturing.
Yeah, and one more question from Melanie. Luckily, we are not anymore kicked out of the room, so we can stay for a few minutes with you guys. Who is the best fit to be SME? So the best fit is a person who had a practical experience, a practical background as your target buyer persona. A person, literally, it's the person who you are going to sell to, right? So that's the key. These people need to really understand the jobs to be done, the complexity of the work, the OKRs or KPIs of these people, so they can provide meaningful feedback.
Well, I wanted to just offer very practical their ideas. What we see in a lot of companies, if you have a role like a sales engineer or technical sales or a sales architect, this is often a good role. They're usually people, especially when you're selling something that is a bit more technical. You may have like project managers, or like people who are actually involved in implementation. If the implementation is actually long, they're usually working very close with customers. Or in some companies, this role is taken over by CSM, so customer success managers, who are also in some organization very highly knowledgeable and also working very closely with the target account. Sometimes there's also like solution architects, solution consultants. The different companies call them differently, but essentially they often play either a role in pre-sales for technical question, or play a role later in the implementation and supporting the accounts.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, guys, for the fantastic questions. Next Thursday, same time, we are going to host a new episode. We are going to announce it on LinkedIn, and also we'll send you an email. And a week after, we are going to host this Fullfunnel Summit, 16 live sessions. Just bear to us. This summit will replace you dozens of courses and books. So make sure you got your free ticket. Feel free to bring your teams. And see you next Thursday. Have a great rest of the week. Cheers. Take care.
Cheers. Thank you.